2, 3, 4.
Is it a scarf or is it half of a sweater? From what I've heard, it could be a third of a poncho. There's no excuse now not to be knitting, 'cause you can do it standing and you can do it sitting.
Hi everybody, welcome to the Truly Myrtle podcast. I'm Libby and this is episode 94. Yay, 94. I am overwhelmed with how much you've loved Floozie. In episode 93, if you've watched it, Katrine and I did a little interview. Katrine from Yarnfloozy did a little interview and we talked about the new Floozie cardigan, and she had kits available which went in a flash. And oh my goodness, you guys, it's been so exciting how much you've loved it. I had a good feeling about this cardigan because I really, really enjoyed knitting it, and the yarn that Katrine put together was just beautiful. But you have just been so enthusiastic and so supportive, and I just cannot wait to see all your Floozie cardigans grow. They're going to be so beautiful. So if you didn't catch last week, this is the Floozie cardigan. I've got two. This one is the Traveller colourway. And the pink one is the Dreamer colourway. And then there was a third colourway. Do you remember? The Still Waters Run Deep colourway, which was all greys and blues and looked absolutely beautiful on Katrine. Now, if you were desperate for one of those kits, they did sell out really quickly. Katrine had dyed up a lot of kits in advance, and we thought that would be okay. We expected that she'd probably do some pre-orders, but we thought we were pretty well prepared, and then everybody wanted kits. So she sold out of those really quickly. She's since then done 3 pre-orders, which have also all sold out very quickly. Don't panic. Apart from the fact there are a ton of other dyers that have jumped on board and they're all putting kits together. If you shoot over to my Instagram page, I've kept all the kits, all the yarns that I've seen, all the dyers that have let me know that they're dyeing something. I've kept all the photographs that they've tagged me in or told me about in my highlights. And on Instagram, on the front page, I'll put a link in the show notes, and there'll be a link to the full show notes in the description box on YouTube. But it's also over on my blog. It ends in episode EP 94. On the profile page, there's a button called Highlights. Yeah, there is a highlights button. Sorry, there's a button that says Floozie Kits. And if you click on that button, it'll take you through the very many, there are a lot of kits that are available. Some have been pre-order, some are ready to ship, some are just colour ideas that dyers have put together, some are actual kits where they've done all the weighing and measuring for you. So go and have a look. If you're still desperate, you can't find anything there, but I think you will. But if you're still desperate, or if you still really want to have some of these original colourways, which are stunning, and this is the Merino Cashmere Silk blend, the fingering blend, then Katrine will be doing more pre-orders, but she's just got to catch up with everything that's been ordered so far. So she's anticipating that come early September, there'll be another round of pre-orders available. There's also something else that's going to be happening then as well. So we've just got a little bit more up our sleeve, I'm afraid, because we're having such a good time with this. We're going to keep it going. So keep your eyes peeled. I'll tell you here on the podcast, of course, but do follow me on social media because I can instantly tell you about stuff there. So if you follow me on Instagram, that's great because I do lots of live chats to you in my stories, and you'll get notified if I'm going live. And that way you can ask me questions and I can answer them right then and there. So that's a really good way to contact me. Also, let me know, follow me on Facebook because I tend to post there as well, and also on Ravelry. But failing that, if you're not into social media, that's fine. Just sign up to my mini mag. So I'll put a link to that as well in the show notes. You can sign up to the mini mag, and then I will deliver to you every couple of weeks. It's a newsletter, but I call it my mini mag because it's a little more than a newsletter. So I'm trying to give you articles and links and interesting stuff and tutorials I've made, and I'll give you special discounts on patterns as well. And it just comes every couple of weeks, sometimes a little more frequently if there's new patterns coming out. But it's kind of like an early bird notice. So if you want to know about the new exciting things that are going to happen, sign up to the newsletter because you guys will know first. That's where I put the information first when it's something big to tell you about. Did I say who I was even? So I'm Libby. I'm Truly Myrtle. You can find me all over the internet as Truly Myrtle. On Instagram, if you're going to follow me there, I'm Truly Myrtle Photos. So come and say hi. I love chatting to you. I've really enjoyed meeting so many more of you over the last couple of weeks. It's just so good. We're in New Zealand. We're at the bottom of the world. It's a small place. A lot of us travel a lot or have traveled a lot, but it's a big effort to get anywhere else from down here. And we're hyper conscious of what happens in the rest of the world, even if you guys forget we're here. So to make friends with people in other parts of the world and just, it helps you reminisce when you've been there, but also make connections. I absolutely love it. And I know lots of people around the world love meeting people from other cultures as well and other countries. So, it's just such good fun when you have a good chat. I love it. I love it. The world feels so much smaller, doesn't it? We've got this really good knitting community going on. It's really good. We are so lucky. We are so lucky, I think, when I hear about some of the stuff that happens in other communities. And on the whole, we're pretty nice people. Knitters are pretty nice people. So come and say hi to me. Right. Now, what else have I got to tell you this week? Not a heck of a lot. I don't think I've got a lot to tell you. I'm off to Knit August Nights next week, so it times in perfectly with the podcast. There won't be a podcast next week, but I will. I'll let you know about some new stuff that's going to happen, and with my newsletter. And then I'll be back the following week with some Knit August Nights news. It's a big yarn festival down here in New Zealand. I'll be teaching. I've also got all my samples there on my show so people can come and try them on, and I'll have a big mirror. And actually that reminds me, I need to double check that I've got the mirror again, because the mirror is essential kit on my stand, because I really encourage you to try things on, fling them around you. What colors are working for you? What shapes do you like? I have a ball on those stands. I really enjoy it. So I'll be doing that all weekend as well. And then I'll come back and I'll tell you a little bit about it, what happened at Knit August Nights. And maybe one day you'll come and join us. Did you know, I just learned the other day, well, I knew, but I'd forgotten, that next year, 2019, is the 10th year anniversary for Knit August Nights. I think there's going to be a huge celebration. So if you're thinking of coming, come next year. Don't miss out. It's going to be amazing. It's really good getting together with the other Knitterly people. Right, now the other thing I was going to tell you is that this podcast, I've got a really fun thing that's following right after this. So last week I spoke to Katrine, the dyer from Yarnfloozy, who dyed the beautiful yarn for my Yarnfloozy cardigan, and lots of you who have managed to get the kits. I spoke to her on the podcast, and while I was at her house interviewing the podcast, I took the opportunity for her to take me on a tour of her studio. So I found it super interesting looking around her studio. Now, she tells me since we recorded, it has grown a little bit because she has had so many orders for the Floozie cardigan. She's taken the opportunity to buy a whole lot of burners. So now I think from memory, she had 2 burners or 3 burners for her pots, and I understand now she has 8. So you guys, this has been awesome to help grow her business as well. It makes me so happy to be able to help out and do stuff like that, and you guys are part of that too. So Katrine's going to show us around her studio though. It's really cute. It's beautifully organized. She's going to talk to us about how she developed the Floozie colorways and putting colors together and different yarns and how they behave, and show us her dyes and all sorts of stuff you didn't know that you wanted to know from a dyer. I found it totally fascinating. She's a colour master. I hope you really enjoy the show, and I will see you in a couple of weeks. Bye, everybody. See you later. Enjoy what follows. Bye.
Is it a hat or is it the start of a blanket? Maybe a poem.
Hi, come on in.
Thank you. Oh la la.
Welcome to my studio. This is where I do all of my work. It's half shared with some garage things, which will eventually go. But this is my space. It's divided up into little bits, and I can take you around and show you what I've got.
Show us around.
Okay, over here is my desk and my weighing out station. So there's lots of little bits and pieces that I weigh out. So for some of these mini skeins and the kits, you'll be getting a 25 and a 50 to make it the perfect amount for your cardigan. So all that weighing out happens here. Everything's organized. I've got all my labels, I've got my books, I've got loads of books actually. my whole bookshelf. The bottom row is full of notebooks. So those all have ideas, plans, things that I'm working towards, that kind of thing. It's all happening in there. In here is lovely cardigan. But I have my stacks of yarn and dyes. A little bit low at the moment. I've got some more yarn coming tomorrow, so all of that's happening in there. All my scales. I hide the lighter from my children. Some lollies for emergencies. This is actually, those two cupboards are actually my sewing things, which don't ever see the light of day. They should. One day I will get there. And then I have bags full of projects, basically everywhere. There's some up there, there's some in here, there's some on the bottom of that cupboard, there's some in these boxes down there. Yeah, so that's all of this section. Over here is where I do all of my dyeing. I use mostly do semi-solids or low immersion speckled dyes. So for that I use trays. These were actually thrifted from my mum's school. They're the bottom of desks. And I use those for soaking all my wool in. There's some stuff soaking over there. So soaking it in there, cooling it in there, getting it ready to shampoo it before I dry it, all that kind of thing. I've got my trusty pots. Can never have big enough pots. My aim is to get some big cray pots someone's recommended to me, because I think they'll be just huge and perfect for what I'm trying to do. And under there is just sort of all my masks, all my different measuring cups, my acids for setting things. Can never have too many towels. And I also have my trusty weighing out spoons. They're actually from an op shop, and I really wish I could buy some more of them, because I dread ever losing them, because this is exactly how I weigh out how much I need for everything. So all my recipes are based on these spoons, and if I ever lose them, I'll be really stuffed. So they are gold to me, absolute gold to me. Yeah, then cleaning products, because I like to keep everything nice and tidy. This is actually an art piece that I'm working on at the moment. So I'm doing a year of seeing what all the speckles that fall look like. It's bowing a little bit. I'm not sure how I'm going to deal with that, but that's fine. Another issue. Working on that. Over to here is all of my yarn stands. So all the kits we're working on for the Floozie cardigan at the moment, as well as other bits and pieces. There's a lot of things going in there for can and for stuff under there for wool on wheels. So a few things happening. And then I've got my trusty suitcase, which has lots of my knits in it. It'll be very messy, but a few goodies in here. My windsinger shawl, a few of them. I try and hide them down here. When they're in the house, the kids tend to wear them, so I usually get dressed upstairs, zip downstairs, come choose my knitwear for the day, and they just all go back in here, and just keeps them in a nice, all in the same place.
Awesome.
Yeah. And then I have all my skeiners over here, which I'm really lucky to have a very clever husband that built those for me, and as well as my benches, which are amazing. So I don't know where I'd be without him, really. He just kind of hops to it. I give him a job and he gets on with it, which is really fantastic. Yeah. So all of my dyes that I use are acid dyes. So I've got some, actually I do have some that I inherited that are not acid dyes, but I don't use them nearly as much. I find acid dyes I can be quite certain of the colours that I'm going to get,
Right.
because I can mix them really well. And I think that's just, that doesn't say anything about other dyes. It's just that's what I've always used. That's what I've practiced for years and years.
Yeah.
That's what I'm good at now.
Yeah.
So I'll probably always stick to those. They do, that because of acid dyes, the fibre dye bond is relatively fragile. So
What does that mean?
So if you put it in hot water or even quite warm water, you can easily separate those two and you'll get bleeding.
So like if you have a colour that's made of, say, like a purple, will it
a
separate
purple
into a red and a blue?
No, it'll just bleed. So if you'll lose that connection between the fibre and the dye, that bond. And so Yeah, so that's why generally people recommend with acid dyes, you're better to do a cool wash.
Right.
Always swatch, of course. If you're going to do something light, something very saturated and dark, don't surprise yourself down the track after you've completed your whole entire garment and then put it in a warm bath water, and it just all runs out. So, yeah, just cool water is probably what I would recommend. Cool water, mild detergent, be gentle to your knitwear always, treat it well. Yeah, and then I have lots of different bases that I do that, some silks, take some out.
Your silks are beautiful.
Which I love. It's just got that nice sheen to it.
Yeah, that's got quite a nice twist to it.
It does, yeah.
Not
and
too tight.
No, it's not too tight. And I have found that I have a few garments out of that. It wears very well. Equally, I've got another one. This is a New Zealand one that I'm doing at the moment, and that's got a bit of silk in it as well, actually. And
it seems like a slightly different colour. Is that my eyes?
No, this is a superwash.
Yeah.
And this is a non-superwash. And that's
and
the
it
difference.
looks more muted, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And also the dyes will take completely differently to it.
Right. So how
things
will that,
tend to be more muted on a non-superwash.
Right.
And I guess you're a bit brighter and more vibrant on the superwash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So when people when they are buying these dyes on these quite sort of vibrant dyes, they tend to be then on superwash yarns.
Yeah, they do tend to.
Yeah.
You can, if you've got time, you can achieve that on non-superwash, but it will always be pretty fragile in terms of keeping that colour.
Right.
So you would need to be prepared to always cool wash it. But this is obviously with acid dyes.
Yeah.
You would need to be prepared to cool wash it always.
Yeah.
So that you don't let it bleed.
Oh,
it just does bleed more. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. And you've got different weights, though. I can see down
Yes. These are both 4 plies, but I also have 8 plies. This is the silk as well.
Yeah. Nice. Amazing. It's like a blank canvas for you to work on.
I know, it's so fun. At the moment this is very empty and it feels very sad to me, but I've got a big lot of yarn arriving tomorrow and it makes me really excited because I can stack it back up and I can start dreaming again and think about what I'm going to do. And the only one I don't have in here at the moment that I soaking over there at the moment, but I'll show you, it's like this.
Yeah.
Is the one that I stock that has yak in it.
Oh, okay.
Which makes it a lot darker.
Oh yeah, look at that dark base to it.
Yeah, exactly. So it just gives it makes it really moody. It's a really moody colour. So that is actually the undyed.
Oh wow.
It's like that. It's that yak fibre is quite dark.
Yeah. Oh, look at it hold that purple so beautifully.
I know.
Purple blue, isn't it?
Exactly, and it goes through. This is called Poseidon. This one.
Oh yeah, that's
those teals. But then you get these like really beautiful, almost like dirty blues. They're kind of very greyish in colour, and I love blues.
Yeah, you're a blues person. Yeah. Show us some of the kits, and you can tell us a little bit about how you actually create these beautiful colours and yarns that you've got here on the yarns you've got.
Sure. So this base we have is a merino silk cashmere. It is probably, I would say, my most luxe base. It is just, I'm wearing it at the moment and it's divine. It's really soft. It's got a beautiful drape. Really, really nice stitch definition actually. Once it's blocked, it's just perfect. So the colours we put together is, I would put these two as kind of complementary colours, whereas this is more monochromatic. So it's kind of, the idea I had was this would be the pop one. It would be the one that comes out at you when you look at it. This will be similar, but probably in a more subtle way. I actually envisage this would suit a lot of people, a lot of different colourings. You'd look great in that if you're brunette, if you're blonde. It would be a range of, I think a really nice browny pink suits a lot of people. I think it looks quite great on them actually. Whereas this one,
one made up.
So this one made up, and I think it will just look great on a range.
Yeah.
Of
so
people,
you've got a speckle through the body.
Yep. So the body's speckled.
And so how do you create a speckled yarn compared to the other ones? Because the other ones are
So-
tonal, aren't they?
Yep. So this silver here, this kit, which I think is more. It's a more calming one.
That's the one
It's
you're
the-
wearing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the one I'm wearing, and I think it's more like when you look at it, the color. I always think about it as the color runs away from you. It flows away from you. It's calm. Whereas this one, I would say, it's like the color is rushing at you.
Yeah.
It's really
You've got
pops.
one of those, haven't you? There's another sample of
Yes.
that cardigan.
I've got this
But,
one.
yeah, and it just jumps. It's really
Yeah, exactly. So it's a very
energizing.
it's a really different look,
Yeah.
I think. So we've got one for those who want to stand out a bit, one for those who want to just be having a calming presence with their cardigan, and then one that I think will just suit a lot of people.
Yeah.
Just really good. The speckle, there's different ways of doing speckle dyeing. I do all of mine with low immersion dyeing.
So what does that mean for people that don't know anything about
So
dyeing?
I have trays that they go into with just minimum amount of water, and I warm it up, add my acid, and then dry sprinkle it with dye
Right.
and let it set.
in the big pot itself.
Yeah, it's sort of in trays they are.
Oh, okay.
So, and I have a lid for them to kind of steam them to really set those colour properly, because I like getting speckles that are really defined.
Yeah.
I think that's quite perfect. Gives you just such little pops of colour
Yeah.
throughout everything.
And we can see that then on the cardigan, can't we?
Yeah,
How
yeah,
that-
definitely. See that? Just those little
Yeah.
pops of colour. And it makes it so that you don't, it doesn't pull as much as like a variegated yarn or anything like that, but you still get that mix of colours.
Right.
Whereas these ones are tonal. They're what I call a good semi-solid,
Yeah.
and they are pot dyed. So I have a big pot, they go in there together in batches, really slow dyeing to try and get them nice and even. Of course it's hand dyed, so it'll never be from a shop, but you'll have more minimal variation. So that's like what I'm wearing here.
Yeah.
You can see little bits.
It gives it
Little
a nice
pops.
depth, doesn't it?
It does,
But
it does,
doesn't
but
have
it's
that-
not
It's
just
distinct
one.
from that speckle. And so the pink and the
So this has got one that's called Chewy Caramel,
oh, nice.
and the red is wild berry, and that's the pop colour in it. And there's actually little bits of the wild berry in this one as well as some rust colours and those nice dark browns.
So how do you plan it when you're thinking about how to put a colour together? How do you is it an experiment, or do you actually make plans before you start? I mean, everyone works differently, don't they?
No, I am a very organised person, so everything I do is pretty calculated and planned. I'm just thinking, where is it? I have a box full of little samples. Where are they? There's various other things in here as well. So there's a few other things cooking at the moment, but so all of these, this is variations that went through. This was a more greeny coloured.
Yeah.
I wasn't happy with that. This was far too like Libby's school colours for her to get on board with.
That's right, yeah, my school colours.
Yeah, this one I experimented with a darker pink.
Yes.
And decided it was too similar to this one.
Yeah.
Obviously not in colour, but in terms of who can wear it.
Right.
So the lighter is actually, I think, more
It's a good
accessible to a
colour.
lot of people.
Yeah, because I have the lighter one. That pink cardigan is the one I wear, and it's good on me with my dark skin
Yeah,
tone.
exactly. But I think
it's
if
also
you're
beautiful on
blonde,
a blonde,
it would be beautiful
yeah,
too, exactly.
And a redhead, I
Yep,
think.
so it goes through a few variations. There was, what was I experimenting? Oh, different speckle in that one.
Yeah.
This was an initial one which I just really
Discarded.
despised from the start. That never
So you did
went
lots
anywhere.
of trying, lots of trial and error.
Oh yeah, here's another one. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's loads of them. So that's with the
Yeah.
lighter one. I think actually in here is the ones that I ended up going with in the end.
Yeah.
The blue one, although I did make that lighter in the end because I just
Yeah.
thought I would.
Yeah.
Once I saw that yarn, it just is shimmery and lovely, and it just needed that very
Silver.
light silver.
Yeah.
It's the one that Libby did,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that one that we went with in the end. So
Yeah.
so it goes through a lot of phases. So in here I have loads of, this is a green that I'm busy working on, and something.
So when you're going to
Got my
actually plan the
mustards.
colour itself, like have you done enough now that you sort of know that this do you work with just the primaries, or do you work with other colours, or do
I
you
layer all of my colours.
Right.
So the colour wheel is always in my head. I always have
Yeah.
to be thinking about where things are, what I need to be layering it with to get a certain colour, and everything. Yeah, so I do dye with a very limited amount of colours,
Yeah.
and I just really layer them to build them up, reduce them down, tone them, tint them, that
Yeah.
kind of thing. So, yeah.
So it's all pretty scientific, the
It
way
is-
you go about it.
It is a
isn't
bit, in a
Yeah.
kind of chaotic way, I think.
Yeah, in an artistic way.
Yes, artistic. I have been doing it for a while now, so I think I have a very good idea of what I can get out of what colours,
Yeah.
and so which ones I can kind of push in terms of depth, which ones I can't,
Yeah.
and that just all took a lot of experimenting. Actually, I
Yeah.
made a lot of really ugly wool when I first started doing this, and I just had to figure out exactly what I want to do and what I want to achieve, and it's very different. So like for instance these ones, I would call that's like a shot black really. So it has a lot of black in it,
That's
even
rather
though
beautiful.
this is a seconds one, but even though it's blue, it actually took a lot of black to get this blue. So a lot of so it's just all about layering those colors, figuring out temperature. Temperature is so important. Obviously things, and that's why you get that variation in hand-dyed yarn. There's hardness.
I'm just going to shut the door
Yeah,
because
go.
I can hear the guys behind us. Making a big noise.
Shut the door. Yeah, so your pH levels are really important. The hardness of your water is really important. People in different parts of the world can be using the same dyes, the same wool, and it will look different. It will look completely different. Also, how much water you have in it. Is it floating in a lot of water? Is it in a little bit of water? The levels of acid you are using to set it.
Yeah.
And your temperature. Are you putting the wool in when it's really hot? You'll get a completely different colour to when you start it from cooler water and you slowly build that temperature up.
Yeah.
So that all is as much a part of it as the actual dyes that you use.
Wow.
So I can have one colourway which uses exactly the same dye and amount of dye and everything, but it can look completely different to a different colourway based on how I've set it and all those kind of things. So
plus yarn. So
yeah,
the yarn
of course.
must make a difference.
Yep.
So the
Massive
one
difference.
we've used at the moment, the one that we've used for the Floozie cardigan, is this silk merino. We have lots of beautiful skeins.
Yeah,
up here
definitely.
hanging.
And this one actually, when it's in the pot, it looks a lot darker than that.
Oh.
So when it's wet, it's quite dark, and then when it dries and you get that sheen from the silk, it really lifts it. And so often you need to go a bit heavier handed with them, because they will look lighter once they're dry. So there's a bit of experimenting going on with that. So obviously none of my samples that I do on that base because it's just too expensive to do it that way.
Yeah.
So this is a super wash. So it will set completely different. So I kind of experiment with it, and then I have to work out how to translate that from that base onto that base. So different bases will look completely different.
So if someone wants to use make this cardigan and they want, they can create a completely different looking cardigan depending on the type of yarn they use, can't they? So if they're using the yarn that we've got for the kits, then it'll be this
lighter, shimmery, because it's got silk in it.
Yeah, it drapes beautifully, doesn't it? It
beautiful
feels so
drape.
nice to wear.
Yeah, exactly.
But they could make quite a woolly kind of cardigan.
Yeah, I was just
or
thinking
they
if
might end up with a woolly cardigan unexpectedly.
Yeah, exactly. I'll show you. I've got.
Yeah.
This is an example of one that although it has silk in it, it is a more woolly looking one.
Yeah.
So that is a merino silk nylon.
Yeah. And it's definitely got more structure to it, hasn't it?
Yeah, but it will be a completely different cardigan to something like that, which is just
the sheen on it and the drape. And
exactly. And so I guess, that's one way you can really make the cardigan your own, is to try it with different things. I think also something that's a bit more heathered to make it look a lot more moody.
Yeah, it's just if you don't want to unexpectedly end up with something that's different.
Yeah. So definitely I think if you want to get this cardigan with that kind of drape and sheen, you need something with silk in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I wouldn't go away from silk. If you did a superwash merino or anything like that, it would be, more woolly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would just look different. It would probably block completely different.
Yeah.
I think.
I think so. And it can be just lovely. I know one of the testers made one, didn't she, in Tosh Light?
Yes.
And it's a single.
Yeah.
And it seemed quite ethereal, didn't it?
It did.
Airy.
Yeah.
which is a
Definitely.
totally different look. But if you are after the same thing, then definitely one with silk.
Yes, I think
Is,
so. And then the cashmere gives it that
Yeah.
little bit of a halo, which is
Yeah.
kind of a nice
Yeah.
mixture to have, the silky drapiness, but with that little bit of a halo. And
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about colours, and if the, you know, thinking about putting colours together. So obviously we've worked out, you know, a bunch of kits here, but
Yep.
in your experience, just with dyeing, when you're thinking about putting colours together, what sort of rules are there any rules in your head about how you dye things that you know are going to work together? Or if someone's at your standing wanting to make something, how do you sort of direct them to skeins that work together? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yes, I think it really depends. It kind of comes back a little bit to what we were talking about this, like what effect you want from your cardigan.
Yeah.
So something like this, which is going to be softer, and again, it's like, I can describe as a feeling. Color is very emotive to me.
Yeah.
And so it feels to me like when I look at that, it's easy on your eyes, and it kind of, the color runs away from you almost.
Yeah.
Whereas something like this, which pops,
Yeah.
it's coming out at you. And so I would first figure out what look you're going for overall. I think in general, when people knit, they should do that, because
Yeah.
you get a better product. You know you're going to love it. If you already have a little idea in your mind of, I've got these pants, I've got the skirt, actually those boots would look great, you'll just wear it so much more. And so I would start with that. What is the look that you're trying to complete with this piece of knitwear? And then work backwards from that.
Because we actually
Going
did
into
have that sort of look, that sort of
Yes.
idea, didn't we?
Yeah.
With this, we talked about having a slightly vintage vibe, didn't
Yeah,
we?
and
With
and having like a vision of someone who's off
Yeah.
somewhere,
yeah,
and like in terms of travel.
yeah.
Also, and yeah, so I would work that out first. What outfit are you trying to complete with it?
Yeah.
And then work out, are you looking at sort of more monochromatic sort of colours, complementary colours? Are you thinking about how much contrast do you want to have? Do you know what I mean? So I think with this pattern particularly, you need a really good pop colour. That blue, the red,
Yeah.
and
That sort of,
this mustardy colour.
yeah.
You need a good pop. Otherwise, it would all just kind of fade away a bit in the yoke, I think.
Unless you're after that, unless you want sort of
Exactly.
a really sort of monochrome.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah.
So I think equally it would just look just as nice with the silver,
Yeah.
like a range of silvers,
Yeah.
and it would just be a lot more subtle. So it's, I think, trying to work out what you want from it really,
Yeah.
and then working backwards.
And what if someone came to you with a skein of yarn that they just totally loved? So I'm going to reach over and grab this. So if I'm going to pass you a skein of yarn.
Yep.
But if someone said, I just totally love this, what would work with that? What will go through your mind as to thinking about what's going to go well with that skein of yarn? So it's quite a variegated one, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's got these sort of darker fuchsia colours in it, and lighter ones, and it's got those tealy.
Some nice teal pops in there.
Yeah, totally. So I think I would, to not confuse it too much, go for one or the other.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do this with a pink and a blue. It would not work quite right. But I would, so say going for the blue, I would suggest using this probably for the body.
Yeah.
And then having that kind of blue as probably the pop colour.
Yeah. With
something in between, maybe a grey, like that kind of grey.
So keeping it on that same colour spectrum.
Yeah, definitely. Keep those colours together.
Neighbours.
Yeah, definitely. I think so.
Yeah.
Would
you undo it? Would you recommend that they undid it and then had a look and see what was actually in it and the way it would lay?
Particularly because the way things can be skeined, it can be hiding a lot of colour.
Yeah.
So see that there? You wouldn't have gotten those depths of blue before you opened it up.
Yeah.
And the same as this. It's got those pinks.
So you reckon just keep to one or the other, perhaps not go for both. So and use because
otherwise you're getting back into
so try and
complementary
find
colours,
that
works together.
Here, but if you have I'm going to take you over to her box over here, but you can see other colours. I'm looking at, there's that beautiful teal here that maybe would pick up quite well in it.
Yes.
No,
sorry.
Oh, these are so pretty, aren't they? There's so many beautiful colours in there.
Thank you.
But yeah, same. I think guess for something like this with the green and the brown, there's yellows in there.
Yeah.
And then maybe just picking one of those colours, I guess, to go with that. I reckon.
Yeah. I wouldn't try and confuse it too much. I think it would become Yeah, but too busy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Less is more. Always.
Is it a scarf or is it half of a sweater? From what I've heard, it could be a third of a poncho. There's no excuse now not to be knitting, 'cause you can do it standing and you can do it sitting. Is it a hat or is it the start of a blanket? Maybe a ball or even a shawl for a baby. There's no excuse now not to be knitting, 'cause you can do it standing and you can do it sitting. Take out your needles, we're casting on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Once I got official love, you can do it, Mary. You can do it, John. Is it a gnome or some other homely creation? Wait and see, it might even be for a teapot. There's no excuse now not to be knitting, 'cause you can do it standing and you can do it sitting. Take out your needle, we're casting on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Once I got official love,